Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a really focused journey into a brief but incredibly layered piece of spiritual poetry by author Oluyomi Ola David. It's titled God Save the Crown, Palace and Dynasty. Now, on the surface, a quick glance at her work might make it look like just a simple list of couplets, but as we unpack her work today, we're going to discover how she's actually crafted this deeply contemplative structure that bridges our everyday physical reality with our intangible spiritual needs. You know, poetry often serves as a mirror for a society's deepest anxieties and spiritual yearnings, and this piece is absolutely no exception. So I invite you to settle in and really think about the contrasting, highly provocative ideas she presents to us here.
Okay, let's just dive right in at the beginning. She opens her poem with these two striking lines. The table is set, and only mercy satisfies. If you read that slowly, you can immediately feel the unique, almost hypnotic rhythm she establishes right from the start. Think about the universal expectation of a set table for a second. It implies warmth, preparation, provision, and the immediate satisfaction of our physical hunger. We are geared as humans to sit down at a set table and expect a meal. But she is presenting us with this perfectly prepared scenario only to immediately subvert our expectations of what actually belongs there.
I want to pose this question directly to you, because this is the paradox she brilliantly creates. What satisfies us when the table is already set? Normally, you'd think of food, right? A feast, a banquet. But she introduces this fascinating tension where physical readiness meets an intangible, almost desperate spiritual need. The table is ready for a meal, but she tells us that only mercy will actually satisfy. It's really a profound critique of modern abundance. We have so many set tables in our society: wealth, infrastructure, entertainment, and yet we often feel completely hollow. It forces us to pause and ask ourselves what we are truly hungry for when all our basic needs are already met.
Section 1. The Rhythm of Provision. Let's take a look at how she actually builds this tension.
Throughout the text, she sets up a very distinct A-B rhythmic structure. It creates this steady heartbeat that literally carries the reader from the physical world straight into the metaphysical. Notice how she conceptually splits our reality in half. On the left side, we have earthly, physical states of readiness. The store is full, or the eye is open. These are tangible things we can measure. We can literally look into a storehouse and count the grain. We know when our eyes are open. But on the right side, she contrasts these with precise spiritual or intangible requirements she says are needed for true fulfillment. Only love is right, or only bread satisfies. She's methodically stripping away our reliance on physical abundance. She's telling us that a civilization can have completely full stores, but without love, that civilization is impoverished. Without these deeper, unseen elements, the full storehouse means absolutely nothing. Section 2, Truth, History, and Prudence. Here, we step into much heavier territory.
So we move away from basic physical hunger and provision, and we start stepping into intellectual and historical realities. Notice how meticulously she pairs these concepts up. On the left, we still have states of human readiness and labor. The ear is present, the neck is willing, the hand is ready, the board is plain, the donkey is available. But look at what she demands on the right side to satisfy these conditions: truth, insight, knowledge, prudence, history. Take the donkey, for example. It's a beast of burden representing raw labor and societal infrastructure. Why does an available donkey demand that history be just? Well, she's suggesting that blind labor without historical context and justice is merely exploitation. A willing neck requires insight, otherwise it just bows to anything. She elevates everyday readiness into a really profound call for intellectual and historical integrity.
Section 3, The Toiling of a Nation. This is where we reach the climax of her poem. She doesn't just keep this as a personal or individual reflection. Notice the escalating progression she uses to expand her focus. She moves the viewer from a simple, domestic, table is set, to a much wider agricultural, harvest is ripe. And finally, she zooms all the way out to the struggles of an entire people with the nation is toiling. It's an absolute masterclass in escalating stakes. She brings us from the quiet contemplation of a dining room to the massive collective struggle of an entire country in just a few stanzas. It shows that these spiritual deficits aren't just a personal problem, they are a societal crisis.
So, the crucial point is how she resolves this massive societal toil. She delivers this definitive final claim to close out her thought progression: the nation is toiling, and only Christ is salvation. For all the earthly labor, all the available donkeys, and all the willing hands, she draws a firm line regarding what she believes a struggling nation truly needs to find its ultimate salvation. This is her ultimate synthesis of the physical struggle and the divine solution. In her view, Political maneuvering, economic harvests, and human labor eventually reach a limit, and it is right at that limit where divine intervention is required. It's a powerful, uncompromising end to her escalating narrative.
Moving to section 4, the woman behind the words. To truly grasp the weight of these couplets, we have to look closely at the worldview of the author herself. Here she is. This is Oluyomi Ola David. In her own words, she is a Nigerian who deeply loves people, and she expresses a highly focused concern for global development and transformation. What's fascinating and adds so much depth to her poetry is that she isn't just an artist sitting in an ivory tower. She is a strategist. She explicitly mentions her work in influencing policy and providing clarity on complex global issues. Policy work involves hard data, metrics, budgets, and unyielding global realities. It is a field deeply rooted in the pragmatic. Yet she perfectly balances that intense pragmatism with the beautifully ethereal, contemplative nature of the poetry we just explored. Notice how she actively bridges these two worlds. We see concrete, analytical policy tags like balance of power and household economics, right alongside profound, unwavering spiritual declarations, salvation is Christ, and my Father God owns and rules. In modern society, we so often see a strict separation between the analytical mind and the spiritual mind. People tend to compartmentalize. But she actively refuses to separate her strategic, geopolitical mind from her deeply rooted personal faith. For her, household economics and divine ownership are not at odds. They are part of the exact same conversation. They exist in total harmony. This harmony is perfectly encapsulated in this striking personal declaration from her bio. My Father God owns and rules the universe. He is the wheel within my wheels. It's a beautiful phrase that evokes classical prophetic imagery of intricate divine machinery operating silently behind the seemingly chaotic events of the world. This is the powerful spiritual engine driving her worldview and her writing. When she writes about a toiling nation or an empty table, she is viewing all of it through the lens of a universe that is completely owned, ruled, and driven by a divine presence, acting as the inner gear, the central driving mechanism of her entire life and analytical framework. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought, inspired by her words. Ask yourself, what is the wheel within your wheels that drives your worldview? When the table of your life is perfectly set, what is the intangible thing you believe will truly satisfy it? We all have an underlying engine driving our decisions, our politics, and our hopes. Oluyomi Ola David knows her answer with absolute, unwavering certainty, blending the geopolitical with the divine. Finding yours might just change how you view the entire world. Thanks so much for learning with me today.